Yeah, so I was talking that um, planning your product is uber valuable topic that I raise with all the startups I work with, and the scope of our conversation today will include basically like the base of how you can specify what you're building, either if you're going to um, hire your own team or you're going to go to the company to develop your product. You need to kind of describe the way it should look, and we'll go through different ways on how to do that, and I'll specifically describe in details two very valuable techniques, which are canvas or link canvas and user stories. I think those are the core options for the early startup, that like before you have like lots of operations, lots of team members. When you just want to start, those are the really good techniques to describe what you're going to do. And I always stop on two things. First of all, examples. So I'll show you how to do it right, and then I'll explain how doing it right will save your budget, timing, help you get valuable advices. So before we start, I want to tell like just a couple of words about me. I'm talking about this. So for last 6 years, I'm heading the mobile development studio, Seductive Mobile, and we're helping startups mostly to build their MVPs. Sometimes we support companies like products for like several years in their development. But my experience for last 3-4 years is tightly connected with consulting. So I've done some mentoring in the incubation programs. Lots of peers come to, when they want to start a startup and they want to get some advice. So basically, I know like a lot about these topics. Being the designer, being like having some development experience, making my own, learning and teaching. Also, recently we've opened Kyiv, like we're based in Kyiv operationally, and we launched the mobile development meetup, and we gather the best speakers to talk about that. And we also have a blog about doing products right, like Product Manager Playbook. You can check it out afterwards. So let's talk a bit about how would one describe the product. What are basically the ways to tell what you're going to build? So this is something we've all done before. Is some sketching, whiteboarding, napkins, sometimes presentations. This is the very first thing that comes to mind when we want to describe an idea. It's usually like really like it's more part of the whole like business process. We just show sometimes core feature, the main scenario of experience that users will get, and basically like you spend minutes to that. You can discuss it for hours, but it's really easy to do. Downside is that, as said, it's it's not a big picture. It's usually like some core feature, core idea that stands out in your project. The product model canvas and user stories is something you could do in an hour. Basically, it's the like already pre-filled view, right? So we have a canvas where we describe how the product should work, how we get profit from it, what should we like expenditures do we have, who's our customer segments, what problem we're solving. So we'll get to that a bit later. Just in comparison to other ways to describe your product, it's usually can be done in 1 hour. Mastering can take more significant time if you want to go to the customers, if you want to test it. But like the first version usually is done under an hour. We do it for an hour because we now need to understand the customer better, and we have some advices on going to that. But like it's a next step that already shows the bigger picture from the business perspective and from the development perspective. Usually after that, what's done is something called UI prototype. So basically, like when we talk about prototype or like sometimes they even call it beta or alpha or something. We're talking about something that's not done, that's not a real product, but pretty much looks like it. So the right way to like what we do, we usually draft out like usually in black and white, and afterwards we can do it slightly better. We can do it like into like final design. But anyway, we mostly operate with the pictures. We or any other company. So when you want to get to the next step of development, you want to really draft, you want to really draw the screens, the basically the flow. So we have a field here, we have a button there, and if you click it, then you see some interactions, and you can buy or you can save and so on. And it can be done either like a picture, or it can be done in some smart software like Vision that would allow you to run it on your phone or a web browser or something. And well, if you take like these tools are now accessible to even non-designers, so developers or managers, business people can already start doing something here. I always recommend to get a professional to work on that. But anyway, it will get your commitment to 10 or so hours. Again, it can go up to like 40 or something, depending on the quality and number of iterations you want to get. But like just to to have some number, it's like 10 times more than product model canvas and user's choice. The step in that ladder is writing out the full documentation. So sometimes I've seen many attempts to just build this documentation straight from the start, but like sometimes we get some briefings that contain like 2 pages of text describing how it should work, and from I'll totally share the slides and even the video. So the documentation done right is something like 50 pages, 100 pages. I've really seen those examples, because like the fully done documentation explains in tiny detail how each button should work. So when, for example, you do a UI prototype, you don't need to explain many things. So again, you want to show the main flow, but you don't, for example, think about the limitations for the text field. If you can put there only numbers or digits, so it's not that important at that moment. But when you're doing the full text documentation, you run into describing lots of details, and even after that, you're not sure if you have included everything, and in the process of development, you add additional details to that. One of the hints to the tech documentation that will decrease the time and allow to understand the product better for like outsiders that will get to you in some role as a consultant or as a developer, potential developer for you, is the so-called BPMN diagrams. So this is an example of a diagram showing the flow. So for example, like if another order is created, then you get something in your admin panel, request in your admin panel, then this like admin approves, or for example, the seller does this stuff. It allows to document the main flow like with logical process of doing it, and it's one of the most important parts of the tech documentation. This is something that developers would really like to know before going to the development, like other cases. And usually like what's done in many products is that there is like positive scenario. So let's assume I want to order a flight ticket from the application. So I go to the search, I input, for example, Kyiv, San Francisco. For these dates, I see the options. I click on the option. I start booking, and then I get like input my card, payment card, I get the ticket on my email, right? So this is the positive scenario in like that shows just like if everything works right. But from that you can have lots of side scenarios. So what if there are no options available? So for these dates, for example, just no flights, or you're now seeing the screen with the flight details. So you want to book this particular flight, and when you click on the book it, the system returns that it's already been booked and there are no seats left because you've thought for 5 minutes and for that time something has changed or the price has been changed. And the really easy logic that was considered easy and straightforward, it can get into really massive flows that you still need to think of if you want to do a good project, especially if it involves money and services, right? You want to deliver, you want to get something that, like for example, in Uber, if your car have declined, okay, we need to find a unique car, or at least we need to show you a message. So it should be done like with the whole team. So again, you can't like in most cases it would be really hard for you to do it alone. You want to get for this process the developers, the testers, the business people, the marketers. It's really takes lots of work to do. So around like the last step before the final product is something that we can call functional prototype. So it differs from the UI prototype. So UI is user interface, shows only like how interface looks, and will the customer see, the user see. In the functional prototype, you already implement some logic. So if we talked about pictures before, here you can already do some calculations. You can even connect to some databases. So it differs from the final product because it can use some easier, faster technologies. So, for example, when you want to do a really great consumer product, you want to do a separate version for iOS, we'll say Swift, Objective-C, and you want to develop on Android for Java. And if it's a web, you want to also use some really good framework. But if you want to just showcase the basic logic, if you want to, get your first sales, maybe not the like big significant sales you'll get afterwards, but if you want, especially if your product won't show the idea, if it's not calculating something or if not connecting to some database, then you may want to build a functional easy tools. So for example, like in mobile space, there was a tool, and there's a tool like called PhoneGap that will allow you to build something really easy, something really small that will already run, that will do some features, show some features. I won't recommend big marketing on that. You don't want to, to launch your company and show this product to everybody. This is a temporary stuff. You need to either understand, test with beta users to understand whether it's a valuable idea at all, or if you want to sometimes raise some funds. So in the end, it's just like meaning that it's functioning, but it's a prototype. It's not the quality, the amount of bugs in it can be significant. The support of platforms can be less than desired. So, but it's again, it's showing like another step that you can do when you progress into the product. So here's your timeline, and at some moment you will go from each step to another. So they are not like it's not like you select either one or the first or the second. Usually you do them in consequence. So some like at the moment of planning, then doing design, then designing like the thinking about how it should work, writing the documentation. The further you go in this process, the higher is the cost of change. So, for example, changing something on the stage of user story, like when you're just saying, okay, we need login screen and we need login with Facebook and Twitter, right? When it's just like 2 words in your document, it's really easy to do. And after you have some tech documentation, those changes, like here, the change will take like 1 minute, and here the change can take like several hours to do, just one change, just to understand how it will affect the other parts of the software, consult with all the team. So, and again, effectiveness, so the further in the process, less changes you want to have, and you're also, you can't do everything you wanted because of the costs. So you might want to progress and do the more significant changes in the earlier stages to get them less in the later stages. And that's why basically for the startups, Agile is used. Agile meaning the quick iterative development, when you don't get, you go through all the stages instead of just, writing the documentation for whole product and just developing it in a year or so. The costs are really high when you're in the end of development. It's like, you need to do lots of actions to change something. When you go in with the agile model and you build like UI prototype, then you go like functional prototype, then you build your iOS version, then you build your Android and backend version. Each time you it's easy. It's not that big of a cost, to if you know the new market information, right? If your customers have told you, so you can just make your changes to one smaller product instead of, for example, here if you have like iOS and Android and web and you're almost done and you want to launch everything at one moment, and you've never shown it before, here changes would be like killing all the team. So as said, for just some prototyping, you don't need any help or consultancy, right? It's just something that you essentially would do. We're going to talk now about these two techniques. Being the next step is in the demonstration, building your product. So the Lean Canvas main information about the product model. Basically, like product model is the business model, but not for the company, but rather for the product. And you don't want to know that your product model isn't working after you build the product. You want to think about marketing, you want to think about competition, even before you have gone to the stage when you launch. You want to think about it from the start. And what we'll do now is we'll go from the 1, 2, 3, we'll discuss how to fill all these blank spaces, and just to keep you informed, there are the tools like Lean Stack. I can write it in the chat. Our just Google Docs version of this canvas, so you won't redo that again. You can use either one of them. All of them are good, and you can use it for your own product idea. So we'll just talk about how to define the problem, how to define the solution, and so on. And just to wrap up, if you write about your product in this form, then you'll keep it to the minimum, and it will be really easy to revise. You're gonna have like several versions, so you've had one mindset at the start, you've written up, then you've gone to some mentor or you've gone to some partner, and you rethought something. The change will take possibly like minutes, So, and you'll know like what have changed, and you can say, okay, it's version 1.1 or version 2 of our vision, and then it will be really easy to communicate to all your team, because assume you have like 5 or 7 people on the board, right, including your maybe investor, angel investor, or your partners, and you just talk to lots of people, and now you get lots of these new ideas, and you know that something will work and something won't. You don't want to reproduce all those conversations with all of them. You want to kind of send them the new vision in a really brief form and see, okay, this has changed and this have changed, and now I'll tell you why, right? And it would be it will be easy to communicate. Also, it takes you to really think about the core stuff. So, for example, if it's features, think about top 3 features, right? What's really essential. If you have like 10 revenue streams, think about core revenue stream, right? You don't want to plan for really many modules from the start. And finally, you won't forget something, right? So, for example, you want to measure your success towards your goal. You want to know that you got enough installs or enough payments and so on. And at some moment of time, you understand that you need to measure that. And when you understand that, you need to have some analytical tool built in your product, right? And this is something that developers should also know from the start. Or you want to monetize with advertising engine, then we need to implement that. If you need to do something else, if you want to market it, social media, so you want people to invite other people, like in Uber, $5 or free rides. You again need to pre-build it in the product, and you need to the cost of all of that before you go to the market, and then think how to market it. So let's start from there. Like, I take usually both of them simultaneously. Problem and customer, they are kind of unseparated. Basically, what I write in there after all this time, like after maybe 100 or 200 filling of these briefs, it looks like a really short form. For example, my target audience are drivers. They're digitally advanced. Maybe they are like the early adopters are some guys from digital agencies, or other like startups, usually males. I'm targeting Berlin or Germany, and their age group is 25-40. So this is what is significant for me. It's really short, so just in it. And the problem or the need that we're trying to solve for them is they don't know where to park because of occupied parking slots. So they want to, like, we can solve the need to know where to park and know whether this parking is paid or free. Or another example, this is more complicated because it's a platform that has 2 types of users. So basically, like, we can tell them like either sellers or buyers, or sometimes parents and children. So we have, in this case, we have on the one side, we have customers who are the boat owners, and then we have the businesses, for example, marinas, yacht clubs, service providers for boats. So there are like 2 customers that we need to understand. And for boat owners, the need is to access information about slips where they can park the boat, know how to, for example, clean their boat, whom to call to do that. So they are pretty like rich guys, and they want just to call somebody and make it done. And for the businesses, it's a lead generation tool and also better service management tool. So that's what we want to define in this stage. The next thing is value proposition and features. So one of our products is an application that helps you get instant computer help. So they'll get mastered to you that will do something with your computer to make it work. And basic problem, and then the guy comes to you and you see where he is. Or another app is the app that allows you to manage, share contacts, and refer the business to your friends. So when you define that, you're getting rid of unimportant ideas. So, for example, you can provide many different services. If you're thinking big, always can come up with 10 ways you can help these customers. But when you define, like, for example, we'll just resolve your issue with computer and we'll do it 3, then it's getting really straight to the point, and you don't think about what you want to add afterwards. So you just understand like what you need from the start. The next important thing is how will you get profit. So the ways I write it down is, for example, SaaS, way, software as a service. It will be like $10 per month and will get you a month's free trial. Or we're building a service where there will be like lots of people and we'll sell advertising. So we'll get $2 for each 1,000 of views. So we'll like with 2 million views, we'll get $4,000 monthly. So this is the assumption for the MVP version. Then you think about how will the cost structure look like. Sorry. So many entrepreneurs forget about things like it's not enough just to build a product. It's also some marketing need to be done. It's some work on the company. Usually customer support needed for many projects. Even if you will do it, you still shouldn't forget about it. There's always some fees. So App Store request fees, Stripe request fees, the engine for payments. So also you do not want to forget it. And when somebody asks me, so okay, what's the cost of just, let's say, development of a product, or for example marketing, and how will I understand that I have enough money for all this time? So I suggest to think with some timing, let's say a year. So if you're raising money for the next year, then think about how much money do you need for all this upcoming year, and then when the year will come to the end, you'll know that you will know that you need to start like several months before the start of the year to get another round of investments. So think not just with the product version, think more of a time frames. Then the channels and KPIs. So it's examples again from the mobile point of view. So for example, you think about how would you market your application. So it would be in the Google Play or App Store, but how people would know about it. So would you buy all your impressions, all your users with the advertising, with the cost per click, cost per install model? Would you be the social media hero, put in lots of interesting stories, communicated with some user groups? Would you rely on the big scale partner? So for example, you get big corporation as a partner and you can profit on top of them and use their customer groups. Would it be search engine? So you kind of want to stick with one or maybe 2 models. And then you say, okay, we need to get, say, 1,000 paying customers in 3 months, or we want to get this amount of revenue. The last one, but not the least important, is NFI advantage. So NFI advantage is the term from startup marketing. So again, not even startup, like usual like marketing management. So it describes something that your competitors are not easy to copy. So if you think about, we'll do just a good product, or we'll hire a great designer, it's not like usually an unfair advantage. So if other company that you compete with will also hire a designer, would it be hard for them, or is it something trivial? If they add the same feature if you have, would it be easy or would it be hard? So cases for really strong advantage are, for example, if there are big companies that products that take benefit from large groups of customers, and you produce something really specific for some group. So they will never go to the smaller group, but you can take this segment and just focus on their needs and get the product to their best expectation. Or it could be, if you have strong connections to investors or some companies that like you can get some arrangement that no other company could easily get. You know about this field, everything that anybody could ever know. You're expert in just particular field. You have a patent for unique technology, and so on. So the unfair advantage is just there. If you start with it, it's great. But if you don't have it, there would be a big chance that if you're successful, it will be easily copied by another companies. So this is the example of the field in Canvas on the example of Facebook. Some version of Facebook, and I don't pretend it to be like really full, but first of all, what we see is like the blue and the yellow colors. It describes the two types of users. So here we have college students, and here we have advertisers. So when we have revenue streams, from the yellow is from advertisers. If we have channels, so blue channels are for college students, yellow are for advertisers. So basically what they're doing for college students, they are organizing network for more friends, for better quality of conversation, for higher user engagement. Say building these features, it's a metrics. That's what they need, like in costs. That's how they profit. So you can check it out afterwards in the slides. And again, there are like other examples in the web for that. But just so you know how the field inversion look like. You'll have all these links. So these tools, they allow you to just start filling in. So you have a ready spreadsheet here, and they even have some additional tips. And for example, also you can see in this version is a bit improved. So for example, in problem field, you also have alternatives. In customer segments, you also understand who will be early adopters. It's kind of just a bit improved by these guys in Stack. So let's proceed to user stories. User story is a way to describe feature. It comes from the SCRUM methodology. When you have the list of stories in some order, you get them by some chunks. So you select, okay, I'll do this chunk of my list. I'll the next iteration in 30 days, and then I'll have like the version of my product 1.6 or something that will be better and will include new features from my plan. Formula for the story is, as some user role, as customer, I would like to, for example, browse the catalog, to have some value or benefit, to find some interesting goods, or to save my time. Or like an admin, I want to see the orders made by users, to track them, or to check out some malfunctions, and so on. So at this moment, you don't want to describe them more detail. So the benefits is that, first of all, you kind of always focus on the benefit for the customer. So, for example, if you can't come up with what value or benefit would be significant with this story, then maybe the story isn't thought enough, and it shouldn't be produced before we understand how it will imply the end experience of the system. Then the developers that see this feature, they can interpret them in the other way. So if you looking to contact your customer base that is already in the application, or you plan to be in the application, if you put a user story that I want to have a chat with my customers, if it's formed like this, or really abstract, on the high level abstract, then the developer can come up with easier and better solutions. So, for example, you thought that you would need to build another tab that will have some emails, requests that you need to program, and developer can just say, okay, use this tool. It's a third-party tool. It's implemented with one line of code, and you have even more features that you dreamed of. And it's free until you have 1,000 users. So if you focus on your side on the benefit, if you think about that you need a tool for finding out some feedback on your product, then when you form a really abstract, high-level abstract approach to that, so you just say, as owner of the service, I want to be able to contact my users, and you don't put your ready solution for that, then you can get an easier, more optimized and better suggestions from your team. And you can do like you can select between different options again. The other thing connected to the user stories is that you can prioritize them, and usually we get the request for some functionality in the way of just list of like 30 features or so, and if we just estimate them, the budget can be over the limit of the what customers have. And even if you hiring your own team, or you have a really tight timing, so you need to in a month, and the full product will take half a year or so. How would you define which features go first? So sometimes they are broken down into A, B, C. So these are these three are A class features, these are B class features. But what's recommended is just number them 30 and just put the one is the most important and 2 is the second next important. And this way, it's easy to change the scope. So if you, for example, have raised a bit more or a bit less money that you planned, you don't need to make lots of pre-sessions or changes. You can just, develop as you go and stop on the moment, on the priority you've left from. So key outtakes out of these two methodologies and the goals that entrepreneurs have on early stage is that you want to move progressively. So you don't want to commit to the full product from the start. You want to prototype them from your napkin to the product model canvas, to the UI, to some working version, and so on. You always need to keep your whole business view in front of you, because product itself is not that important as the business. It won't work just if there's no valid business model, and if you change something in the features, those changes are affecting some other business sides, and you don't want to miss that or get to that too late. So you always want to see how it will work from the business point of view. You don't want to, for example, exclude your monetization engine or your marketing engine from the put it afterwards the feature that you think is really cool, but again, you cannot have enough budget or timing, and you will leave out the really important parts of your product. And the more people will see what you're working on, especially on early stages, because changes are really easy, and you can experiment and even have like 5 canvases, 5 options to go. Business-wise, you can put them on one desk or table, and those options were produced by talking to many people, and you now see that you have you can go in this market segment, and you need this monetization, or you can change it to other way, and you have all those options, and then you can talk to your team, and you can select the best. So you may want to have many versions of your plan. So now let's go to the questions. So I'll switch to Q&A mode, and if you have any, please write me your questions. Mm-hmm. So there are two kind of fits in there. So it's usually the product problem fit, and then the product market fit. The product problem fit is when you want to understand if your product really solves something for the user. So for example, you think that okay, I'm a driver, and I don't know where to park my car, so I want to just understand, like, if I have if I have an app that will show me the parking, would it help or not? So you want to show it to some people, to real drivers, and ask, okay, like, will it work for you or not? And basically on this stage, you're selling manually. So you're getting your friends, or you're getting your like some contacts, beta testers, and you're personally telling them about that. So for example, like, if you ever seen the Silicon Valley, the TV show, the guys got really cool product idea, and really the product, when they explained it to somebody after an hour, the customers were really impressed and wanted to buy it, but you would need an hour to explain it to them, so they won't be afraid of it. So in the end, it was satisfying their need, their problem with this product, and they've passed the product problem test. But the next issue is it scalable? Is it profitable? Is there a way to make many people use it, right? So it's basically important for scaling, allowing you to understand how easily, how much money would you need to scale it then for the whole market. So on the early stages, you don't want to think too much about of it. You want to first understand what's your problem, what you're trying to solve, and how to solve it. And when you have the solution that works for you, then you try to understand the marketing part of that. Would the users love it? Would it be easy to market? And if it for this product and this particular market, then you need to start again from the redefining your market, redefining your product. So the next question, the percentage of apps that are actually successful. I've seen many statistics on that. One of the statistics that is closer to answer on that is like only like to show like around like 2% or 5% of applications. Only 5% of applications are getting more than $500 a month, are profiting with it. So we have monsters that like Supercell that are putting millions $5 a day into advertising and are getting several times more in their revenues. So they are cosmic numbers. And we've got applications that barely, do any profit. Sometimes I've heard like we've got like our developers. They used to do some stuff, some smaller apps for themselves, just small silly apps for Android, for example. And some of them are getting like $200 or $500 a month in passive advertising income. So as said before, I don't see that apps as itself produce the profit. So it's a business. Some users, some businesses can even don't have any revenue through the mobile app for them. But the as well as with startups, the numbers are not optimistic. Quiz. Okay. Okay, so how would you test your product market fit? Well, if we go back to the product model canvas, the segments that answer these questions are basically channels and KPIs. So, for example, how would you test the product market fit without any product at all? So you can create a landing page, define what you're trying to build. So, for example, like on Kickstarter, right? Many people go on Kickstarter, they just produce their idea in form of video or something, and they tell you, okay, it will cost $50. Like it will cost $100 if you send us $50 now, you'll like in half a year when we build it, right? And then they check out how many people have gone to the Kickstarter and donated to them, and they want it like it's not whole part of the market. Kickstarter is like maybe 1% of their target audience, but they say, okay, well, we put as much effort, and we got like maybe 1,000 users that could buy it and that will know about our product, and after that 200 out of them, out this 1,000, have contributed, and so the engagement is really high and people love the product and they're ready to buy it even before it's built. So that's how you can measure and understand if the market is ready for that. Or you have some assumptions. You think that you could push the advertising through the Google or Facebook, and you will get your typical user for $1. And out of 10 users, one will buy, and he will get you like $20. So for each sell, you need to get 10 users by dollar. So you think that you will invest $10 and get back $20, right? So this is your assumption about how it should work. And then you want to test this assumption, and you're building something and you launch your first advertising, and it shows you that your customer in the end will cost you not 10 but $15 or $25 or $100, and you won't get 20 but you'll get like $15 out of that. And this will either support your assumptions and will get you lots of happy investors that would love to invest in you. So if you can show this product market fit, if you've gone to the stage and you can share the real evidence that your product market fit is working, getting investments, getting partners, getting like all the support you need won't be a problem afterwards. But then you also can get other results, and then you need to rethink your model. Any other questions? Well, again, thanks. I'm really happy that you came, and listened about this. I wish you a great day, and hopefully talk to you later. Bye bye.